Good morning, everyone. This is Diana Hawkins from Hawthorne Neighborhood Council. Thank you for joining us this morning at the Hawthorne Huddle. We're going to do something a little different this morning. We have a nice, lovely young lady that we all love dearly, and we want to honor her right off the bat because she has to leave. I'm not going to say her name, but I'm going to let the two people that are going to honor her say something very wonderful about her. And with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to my good friend and co-host, Mr. Al McFarland. You're muted, Al.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, all, and good morning, those who are joining us virtually. Let me also begin by saying that we're recording this meeting as we always do, and that McFarland Media will be streaming it across its platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter later today. So you can come back and check out this proceeding. We want to begin by honoring a very, very special member of our community. I call her a young elder, but I mostly lift up her work as an individual. And in the context of her awesome individuality, I lift up her brand. She's part of a legacy of leadership, a legacy of compassion and caring. She's a reflection of dedication and pursuit of excellence. In all respects, she is a pharmacist and an expert on health and well-being in our community. I'm pleased that we are beginning the program today with honoring Dr. Rhonda Chacolas. And before I bring her on, I want to ask my colleague, Clarence Jones, to join me here in honoring Dr. Rhonda. Clarence? You're muted, Clarence.
Well, we're having that problem today. Dr. Rhonda Chacolas is being honored for her work and dedication to the Northside community. She is a longtime member of the Northside. She's a graduate of North High. She is a member of the Minnesota Board of Pharmacy. She has worked with the community on issues around infant mortality, substance abuse, and she is now working on a polypharmaceutical issues for our community. And so we are honored that we have such treasures in our community. And so I want to honor her and to say we are appreciative of you, and we do love you, and we want the very best for you. So I'm going to turn it now over to Diana.
She's not going to get off that easy. We need her to say a few words.
That's right.
Okay.
Good morning.
Well, good morning.
Come on, Dr. Rhonda. You're not getting off that easy.
Thank you for being flexible. I'm actually at a wellness retreat. So this is one of the things that I preach to young people or people who are caring for others, that it's important to take the time to do those things that keep you well. So I've been here for a couple of days, working on some mindfulness and meditation and some yoga. So thank you so much for having me and being flexible. It is an honor and privilege to be a part of this community, but more importantly, be really a reflection of my parents' legacy. Early on, they instilled in us excellence, but also using that excellence for the betterment of our community and the community at large. So I want to thank you. This is not the last time you will hear from me. Clarence and other people have me very fired up. I am happy to lend my expertise. And I'm also very humbled by the stories and interactions that I have with people in the community. So I truly thank you.
Okay, well, Rhonda, thank you so much for being who you are, but also you're the model of what can be and what should be. And by that, I mean you demonstrate integrity, fearlessness, fierceness, and compassion, and also ability that an individual and that a family and that a community can rise to. So Rhonda, once again, thank you. And in thanking you, I honor your mom and your dad, I honor the Chacolas brand. I honor your sisters and brothers, your siblings, put it that way, because all of you continue to contribute in ways that are immeasurable. And on behalf of the community, Dr. Rhonda, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. I'm very humbled. I hope everybody has a fabulous day and a fabulous week. And unfortunately, I'm going to go to my next session here, but I look forward to being on the show and with this group. And please do not hesitate to reach out to me if there's any questions you have for me or if you just want to chat. So have a great week.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
So with that, we're going to proceed with today's program. Diana, you can correct me or redirect me as needed. I want to see if
Luisa's here.
Luisa,
Yep.
I want to go straight then to Luisa Pasao for the update on COVID. Luisa, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Doing well, thank you. So I thought I would do not just a COVID update, but do sort of a health winter wellness update, because we are seeing, COVID is just one of the respiratory things we're seeing, and there's more happening. And I think just it makes sense. And just so you guys know, our COVID numbers are not as accurate as they have been in the past, with more people using the at-home tests, which is great because you're taking care of your own health and you're doing it at home, but those don't get reported to us. So what we're seeing is just the people that actually go into a laboratory or a clinic and get a test done that then gets reported to the state. But if it's not, then we're not seeing. So, so in terms of COVID, our numbers have stayed fairly flat and lower than they had been. But we are starting to see some upticks, and we're seeing it primarily right now in wastewater. So, which usually is a precursor to seeing it in case rates, although, we're not sure if we'll see that because of the home tests. We've also continue to see our hospitalizations go up slightly in people hospitalized in COVID go up slightly. So that also indicates that we may be having some more activity around COVID. The other two areas where we're seeing quite a bit of activity is RSV, which is a respiratory virus, respiratory syncytial virus, and it primarily affects younger children and then older adults. And we're seeing and for many kids, RSV actually leads to hospitalization because it really messes with their ability to breathe, which is important, right? So we are seeing pediatric beds being very scarce, and so kids needing to wait long hours in the emergency room before they can be admitted, or having to be transferred to other hospitals. And not to throw my personal life in here, but I had that experience actually with my daughter who has asthma and had a really bad cold and had to go in and be hospitalized. And we're lucky she was transferred out to Burnsville, and we have transportation and we could go out there, but for many families, that's not a possibility. And so when she was in the hospital, there were many kids that had been in the ED for over 20 hours waiting for a bed. So we're seeing that with RSV, and we're also seeing a flu activity start up increase, and we actually have higher hospitalizations the last few weeks than we saw in the previous years. So in terms of flu. So all that to say that, make sure you get your bivalent booster for COVID, make sure you get your flu shot. It does appear that the flu shot is appears to have a good coverage. The flu shot is always done based on what we've seen in the Southern Hemisphere. And so there's always a bit, is it gonna get good coverage? But it appears that we're seeing mostly influenza A, and the flu shot is a good coverage for that. A couple of other pieces in terms of health, we have had a few cases of measles in the state, a small outbreak of measles, and we have seen many of those cases were travel related. But again, we had with COVID a decrease in uptake of pediatric vaccinations. So just reminding your community to get kids vaccinated and back up to date around all of these infectious diseases. And then our monkeypox numbers appear to be stabilizing and going down. We haven't seen an increase in cases in Minneapolis over the last couple of weeks. So that's as good news. Vaccine has become more available, and it's is available in more places. So again, for those that are maybe a risk of monkeypox, recommending that they access the vaccine, which is more available. Any questions? I know I just did a lot, but any questions, happy to answer. And just basically, it's, even though it didn't feel like it yesterday and it was 70 degrees, we are coming up on winter, and will be, and just so these viruses that we see around are around, and we want to make sure that people are getting that information.
So let me ask a couple, Louisa. Thank you for that report. Thank you. And this is just really one of the highlights. Your report and Bill's report just mean a lot to our community and to the residents of our neighborhoods. What are the risk factors associated with is it RSV?
RSV. So it's respiratory, and I think it's syncytial virus. So RSV. It's similar to any other. It's a respiratory virus. So the symptoms are similar. You have congestion, you can get fever, cough, and it's a virus. Kids pass it between each other. Washing hands, masking, all of the things that we did for COVID, and we had in 2020 and 2021 we had lower activity around these viruses because I think people are so focused on prevention for COVID, wearing masks, all of the hand washing, all of that we did see we haven't seen these numbers. So the other piece is we probably don't have the same level of immunity to some of these things that we had before because we haven't been as exposed. And so, continuing to, if you're sick, stay home. Mm-hmm. If you're, wear a mask if you're going out. Well, make sure you're washing your hands, and doing those kinds of things will be good prevention measures for any of these.
So we use the language and protocol of quarantine during COVID. Are we using the same kind of attitude, or is it not as severe?
No, we do not do isolation and quarantine for RSV or for the flu. That is not something that we do. It's not as contagious as as COVID. So we wouldn't be doing any kind of quarantine. But like with everything, if you are ill, if you're not feeling well, try to stay home. Try to stay away from others, just because you can still pass things to folks.
If
you don't want to. Yeah.
If a person has their flu shot, an older person in particular, should she or he feel like they're at less risk for RSV, say if they have grandkids or around children? And then, what should parents do to protect the children who are interacting? Because this has particularly significant impact, as I understand it, on children.
Yeah, so the flu vaccine does not protect against RSV. We don't have a vaccine for RSV at this time, although there is a promising vaccine in the works. And so we're hopeful. As any what parents should do if they're, again, if your kid is sniffling and coughing and sneezing, try to keep them away from your elders, just because they're more susceptible. And even with the flu for elders, even if the flu will protect you, it'll give you some level of protection, but it could still be very serious. So you just want to be more careful when you're around folks that are more elderly, because they're, just as we get older, our immune system is just not as strong, and we're all more susceptible to more severe illness.
Any other questions or comments?
I see a hand by Donna, I think. Donna Spence, do you have your hand raised? Or no?
I
Never
don't,
mind.
but
No,
I don't, but this
you
is
know what
great
it was?
information.
I had my cursor on you, and it looked like your hand was raised.
Yeah,
Never
no,
mind.
no worries.
So, great. Well, it's my pleasure to be here. I'll put my contact in the chat, and if anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out. And Diana, I will send you some slides for you to then put in your newsletters and stuff that goes out. So, happy to be here. Thank you. And I will stay a little bit, but I will have to leave, but I'll keep an eye on the chat too.
Thank you, Luis. Let's move to our crime report. That's the right word for it, I guess. So just safety report, it's probably better. Safety report. Bill Magnuson, 4th Precinct. Hey, Bill.
Morning, Mr. Flowers. How are you doing? Okay, so for the Hawthorne for the month of October for Part 1 crimes, and I remind everybody of Part 1 crime is anytime we have a victim involved, so we take those a little more seriously. There was 0 homicides, 3 rapes, 3 robberies, 14 assaults, 7 burglaries, 13 thefts, 22 auto thefts. There was 1 arson for a total of 63 Part 1 crimes for October. And the biggest increase we have, and it's the same with all the neighborhoods I have across the board, it's the auto thefts. And everybody knows that it's, we keep talking about it every month. It's the Kias and the Hondas that keep getting hit. So we're working to try to combat that. We're working with the PIO's office to try to get some messaging out there. And we're also working on trying to get some funding for some other programs. So does anybody have any questions?
Okay, thanks for the report. Thank you so much. Diana, go ahead.
How's the carjackings? Is that kind of easing down, the carjackings?
Well, I think there was a decrease in those, and maybe the inspector could speak to this more than I can, but I think with Operation Endeavor, we're hitting some of those hotspot areas pretty hard with investigative resources, and we've had some success with that. So I think they might be down a little bit, and we're maybe not down, but we're also catching some of those bad actors that are committing them too.
Inspector Adams, good to see you. Please jump in, and it's always great to hear your voice and get your assessment on where we are as a community, and just your feelings, your thoughts, and how we can support you helping us support ourselves, being safe and effective neighbors, citizens, and community.
Thank you, Al. Yeah, Bill's right. With Operation Endeavor, it's mainly supposed to be in downtown, and all of a sudden, I got caught wind that they were going to do it 90% down there, and I kind of kicked over some chairs. I think I've told some of you all that. And we were actually able to get the Fed portion up in North Minneapolis. It's been very successful. I was at a meeting last week with the new chief at Capri Theater, and I couldn't even get out of there. I had to leave to go to the Timberwolves games, and everybody stopped me and telling me about the difference. They can feel the difference in the neighborhood. I was at the football field, and one of my coaches pointed out to me that, we haven't heard gunfire the whole season over there. And I wasn't even aware of that, So I know Operation Endeavor, I like to call it Endeavor Northside, has been taking off significant violent offenders. We're down 29% in North Minneapolis with violence, and we made over 40 arrests. We just did a detail yesterday over on Broadway where we arrested 10 people, and these were addicts who were using, and we watched, we surveilled, and we took them off. We were able to recover some guns and over 100 fentanyl pills. So, community has asked me to do something about the addicts in the area, and we have done some criminal actions against them. Our next deal is we're going to do some more details next week, and we're going to go back up there. This time we're going to have, we're working with North Point. We're going to have some of their addiction specialists be along with our Operation Endeavor folks, so our folks can provide security for them, so they can provide the services, or at least suggest the services to the addicts. So we stay quite busy. We're serving the north side, and we can hopefully the reduction in Operation Endeavor, which I don't think is going to go away for some time. I think we're taking all these different resources and putting them together and trying to make a safer north side and safer Minneapolis, because it's had a significant impact on downtown Minneapolis up in Nicollet Mall. So they virtually had got that cleaned up within a week and a half. So we'll continue to do it. All I ask for support is just support our efforts. We're trying to do it the right way, not get people caught up who doesn't belong in that situation. And I just think with our techniques and our technology that we haven't had that issue.
What's your staffing challenge right now, Inspector? How far away from the optimum staffing are you, and what is on the drawing board for getting fully staffed?
So 2019, I think we had in the 4th precinct, we had over 106 officers. Currently, I have 59 officers. And I just lost 4 to maternity leave. Something's going on in this building because everybody's becoming pregnant. So I'm just like, geez. So I'm losing 4 actually this weekend to maternity leave, which is it's hurting our staffing, obviously, but hey, it's a blessing for those families. But we're trying to recruit. I mean, our last recruit class, I only got 2 officers out of that class. But I'll take 2 instead of 0. I know that the recruitment team's been down to Texas and other places in the country, but we're all competing against each other. All of law enforcement is competing. Some law enforcement agencies are offering $30,000 bonuses, which we can't pay. So we're going to continue to try to come up with creative ways to increase our staffing. I have some ideas that I'm going to share with the new chief, Chief O'Hara. I want to bring in part-time officers, where we can maybe have officers from other agencies come and work on a part-time basis in Minneapolis. Obviously, they'll go through the background checks and all that. We'll look at the internal fair files and things like that. We're just not going to bring any officer in. But if we can do the part-time officers, I want to cap it at like 50 officers. That would help us significantly. They have to work the hours of, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and give us a commitment of 20 hours a month. Also, I want to bring in a part-time investigators to supplement our investigation division. And maybe that would be some of our retired officers who left, may want to come back. Maybe they have them in their board, and we don't have to do much training with our system. So that's some the creative ideas that I'm having that conversation. I will have the conversation with Chief O'Hara. I've already talked to Commissioner Alexander about some of my thoughts, but I have to tell people on this department, we can't do things the old way. We can't expect people to come and try to take this job because it's very, very tough. People really don't want this job. So we have to be creative with getting people here to provide the service to our community. So that's still a struggle for us now, recruitment.
Well, the numbers are a little frightening. If you were at 110 or 20, several years ago, and you'd half that number now, and I'm just trying to do quick math, you're fewer than 60, meaning that in a 24-hour shift, you've got 20 people, to spread out, right, per shift.
Yeah, per shift. Yeah, we're averaging, about 7 officers per shift. If we have 7, that's fine. Sunday, we had an extra overtime because I was down 2. I had 2 officers because of the leaves the family leaves that the officers have to take. So we've offered a lot of money for people to come in and work, and we've given some takers on that. So we just got to continue to be creative staffing. There's also an officer safety issue. I can't have 2 officers working North Minneapolis, and they're going to be separate cars, and they have to have backup. So it's a problem. Where somebody asked me, how can you manage that? Well, by prayer, basically. Hoping that we can get through and provide the service. I know communities not getting the quick service that they used to get, but we're doing our best, and our people are busting their butts to try to provide the service. But I also have to be aware of the burnout too that I get with my officers too, and we send quite a bit of that because they're coming in and they're kind of working every day. So.
Last question, Inspector, impressions of the new chief, and how will we get to, and how will he make his rounds to meet the community in North Minneapolis, in particular in 4th Precinct?
Yeah, he was at last Monday. He was at Capri Theater. A pretty good crowd showed up. It was and he talked to everybody. I think he's been to every community this week talking to them. He actually showed up at North High's football game Saturday and stayed for the entire game and talked to Principal Fritz Flavin and her staff, and so he's a guy who's going to be out in the community. He says that, and he's done it. Got it. So I'm quite sure you guys are gonna probably interview him and stuff like that. And he seems like that community guy. So, hopefully he'll come in and he'll make the cultural changes that he said he could make. And like I told him when I met with him, I said, whatever assistance you need from me, just let me know. I think Dr. Alexander is another interesting person, Al, that y'all probably want to meet and talk to. I'm developing a pretty decent relationship with him in the last couple of weeks, and I like the way what he says. I think he really cares about our community, and like he says, everybody want to question how much money he's making, but the thing is, he came into a situation where he should be paid that kind of money because he's on a world level. People are watching our department from a world view. So he's got to be successful with managing, his position. So I just think I feel comfortable with Dr. Alexander's leadership, and I think the chief answers to Dr. Alexander. So as a community standpoint, I trust Dr. Alexander, and I hope that means something to you folks.
Absolutely.
It does, because he's actually our main topic today. So thank you for that, Inspector.
And Charlie Adams, we trust you.
Yeah, we do.
So you said you hope it means something. It absolutely does, and thank you so much for that endorsement, because we depend on you. Because we see you as us in the community. So thank you so much, Bill. Thank you so much as well. Any other questions or comments? Any other questions or comments? So Diana, so next we're going to go to Clarence Jones and get our human partnership update. Brother Clarence, good to see you again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We have just two events this month. One on November the 11th, we're going to have a veterans event at the YMCA. We're going to be inviting veterans to come in and have lunch with us. It'll be a very, very informal kind of event. We just want to let them know that we appreciate them. We also want to be able to provide resources for them and their families because they are many times they're some of the bedrocks in our community. So that's November the 11th at the YMCA. The other event that we're having is November the 17th over at Life Source, where we're going to have this men's health event. And it's really going to be a really, really nice event. And Hawthorne is very much a part of this. We're going to be honoring Willie Dominguez, Kevin Jenkins, Fred Evans, Jack Straughter, Chuck Taylor, and Bruce Hardaway. And these are men in our community that have had maybe some health issues, but they've also done some great work in terms of helping our other community members to address and to look at their health. And it's really, like I said, it's going to really be a really great event, and we will definitely have the information out for you to attend. So those are my only two things. I get one last thing I want to say is that I just got an email from North High girls basketball team, and they need help. So we need to be taking a look at how can we be a sponsor for their basketball team. Okay.
Any contact? Who should people call?
The head coach. I just saw it, Edwina. Okay. But anyway, I think we should look at that.
Great. Thank you for honoring veterans. I know that Sandra Crump is a veteran. Are there any other veterans on the call right now? Besides me, I'm a veteran. Anybody else here who's a veteran? And Sandra, to you and all of us who have relatives, sisters or brothers or children, parents that are veterans, thank you all for the service to our country and to our community. And thank you, Clarence, for creating a way to acknowledge and to support and honor veterans in our community. Thank you so much. So I think that moves us to our main topic. Am I right, Diana?
Nope, actually, we're going to do the honorees because we're still waiting on Commissioner Alexander to join us. But before we do that, she don't know that I'm going to do this. And, she's always busy. And I don't know if you've been watching her through the whole program, but she's got them papers shuffling out there. My good friend, Miss Princess, I just want to honor her because she was recognized as the 5th honoree in the 2022 National Philanthropy Day Spotlight Series. Did I say that correctly, Miss Princess? Did I say that? Okay, so we always got to give our flowers where they do. So I'm giving you yours again because when I saw that, I was shocked. I was like, oh, wow, she's at it again. So with that being said, Princess, we really do appreciate all the work that you're out here doing. Our first honoree, I'm going to turn it back over to Inspector Adams to honor this young lady. I met her a while ago, but I don't know if she remembers me, but I hear about all the good work that she's doing. So Inspector Adams.
Thank you, Diana. Sergeant Gretchen Bloss, we actually recruited her from downtown, started from downtown to be our community response team sergeant. Sergeant Bloss has taken over her team. She retooled that team. They have been out in your neighborhood, basically hitting our problem houses, taking off various drug houses. She's actually developed a great relationship with what I call the Plymouth Row houses down here by the precinct. She's got the people love her down there because we had an uptick in violence over the summer, and Gretchen worked with the community down there and worked with the management and was able to set up a camera down there that totally eliminated our problem after the young man, Mr. Dorr, was shot and killed down there over the summer. So her and her team has been very active. She's a part of Operation Endeavor. She's been downtown. I've let her and her staff go downtown to help clean up down there, but also on their downtime, she's up here in our neighborhood doing her job and continuing to do her job. I'm really happy to have her as one of my leaders in this precinct, and I can tell you a story real quick. Last year, we had a young lady that lived in the Plymouth row houses. She had probably about 6 or 7 kids, single parent, and just was having a tough time. She would come in the precinct, and Officer Diller, our desk officer and community engagement officer, would work with that young lady. And I could hear her out there just in tears and just crying. And she was really stressed out. Gretchen actually kind of took her under her wing and became that kind of mother figure for this young lady, and helped her. She got put out of her housing down here. They helped her get a housing in the northern part of Minneapolis. And last year we did it wasn't a secret Santa, but we did we took her family and we gave them all kinds of gifts and gift cards, and we really just poured a lot of stuff into that family. And that was because Sergeant Bloss cared about that young lady. And I want to commend her on serving our community and serving our folks that way. And like I said, Gretchen's a great leader in our community, and she cares. This is somebody who truly cares about North Minneapolis. And I just want to thank her for all her hard work and her staff's hard work. So, Bill, you have anything?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head, Inspector, with her compassion for the Northside community and her go-getter attitude to try to bring safety and stability to the communities in North Minneapolis. So I really appreciate that we were able to get her, recruit her, and her willingness to collaborate with all entities within Minneapolis PD and other cities to try to bring stability and to try to bring safety to the North Minneapolis community.
So she doesn't get off that easy neither. Where's she at? Because I know she's here, Miss Gretchen. Is she on mute?
Gretchen, you there?
She's coming back in. She must have had a little
Oh,
bit.
she's coming back in.
Come back in. She's connecting to audio. We'll give her a second here. She's probably out there doing good things, and so she's maybe not got the best connection there. Yeah.
Did she go? It looked like it went back out. Huh?
She did go back out. Yeah.
Okay, well, she comes back in. We'll let her have her say. When
she just sent me an email that she lost her internet connection. So.
Oh, okay. Well, tell her we'll let her get away with it this time, but she's gonna have to come back and say something once she get back connected. So,
all right.
Okay. So our next honoree, Mr. Clarence, do you see Suzanne here? Is she here, Ann?
She is on her way. I just called her.
Okay,
and,
so
she how city work is, right?
Right. So let me know when she gets in, because like I said, we're gonna go right now. Miss Donna, I'm gonna give you 2 minutes to make your announcement.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so very much. Always love being here, and thanks everybody for just the excellent information this morning. I always feel like I learn things here that I don't and can't learn elsewhere, so always appreciate it. I'm Donna Spence. I'm with Serve Minnesota. We're AmeriCorps for the state, so we do offer paid community service to help paid people work and closing gaps in the community. And so we are looking for folks who can work at our own Nellie Stone Johnson School as a paid reading corps. We call them Scholar Coach, and they're helping students thrive academically. Those folks will be literally embedded in a K through classroom, K to 3, 3rd grade classroom. And they will be working with the teachers to help students become better readers. You don't have to have experience because we provide training and coaching and that'll help you in preparing the kids and developing their skills and helping them gain their confidence. So we are recruiting for positions that start in January of 2023. The deadline to apply is December 14th. And so I'm going to put this information in the chat. If you want to cut and paste it and share it, spread it with everyone, that would be wonderful. But we're always recruiting, not only for this position, but for other roles where people can actually make a difference, do paid community service, and really, like I said, help close some of these gaps in our communities. So thank you, everybody. Happy to be here always.
Clarence, you have a question?
I have a comment. I want to thank Ms. Evanson for, we now have a project manager working with us on our substance abuse with Hawthorne as well. I didn't think about that. So we do, this is just an affirmation of the work that you're doing, and we're very, very happy with him. And I think that when the community gets to meet him, they will see the real value that he brings.
Great, thank you for that, Clarence. Yeah, that's our Recovery Corps program. So we have several programs in various areas, where people can serve based on their passion. So yes, please feel free to reach out anytime. It's great work experience for folks, even though it is community service, but it's a great career pathway to whatever is next for folks. And we are really happy and excited that we're partnering with Clarence and Human.
Thank you. Did Ms. Gretchen get back in yet or not? Nope. Okay. Ms. Tasker, I know you have something to tell us.
I actually really don't, except for, yes, I do. So the Department of Corrections Community Coalition, we are in the process of developing a mentoring program for our adult systems involved clients. So we're hoping to have that launched by 2023, 2024. But we are also looking and recruiting members to serve on our CCC coalition. You just need to be a Hennepin County resident, have experience, direct or indirect experience with the system. So basically it exists to inform policies, practices, and your voice is actually heard and implemented, because it's the coalition, which is representative of people from Hennepin County, that actually formed the program. So, but I will put my contact information and I will keep making that announcement until further notice. Thank you.
No, that's great. Does anybody else have an announcement that they want to make? We got about 5 or 10 minutes before the commissioner come on. Miss Ann?
Yeah, as long as we have time, I'll just say November 20th is World Children's Day. And it is a recognition by UNICEF of children around the world. And so we have asked the City Council to pass a resolution recognizing World Children's Day in recognition or an acknowledgement of the diversity of the children in our community, and to remind us all that we need to pay attention to our children, and that the future of our community is dependent on how we treat them. And so That's going to come up before the city council on November 17th. And we're hopeful that there will be a commentary piece in the Star Tribune that day too about World Children's Day. But just keep it in mind, it's an important day, and it's a Sunday, so it's a good day to have something in the Star Tribune, we hope.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone
Diana?
else?
Diana, would you send a link to Suzanne, please?
And you got that? She's sending it to her.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Is there any other announcements before I make mine? Okay.
Let me say, I just put in the chat for anyone and everyone's leisure of reading the upcoming edition of Insight News. And I love what we do in community. Obviously, the topic for everybody right now ought to be making sure that all of us get out and do our civic duty and vote. So we address that in the upcoming edition of Insight News. Check it out and use this link to share it with all of your networks. Great information, great stories, great visuals. So check it out.
Did we get Suzanne yet, Ann? You're muted.
I sent her the link.
Oh,
so she
okay.
should-
So I'm gonna make my announcement real quick. You guys know that this is Hawthorne's 9th year of collecting coats, hats, gloves, mittens, and scarves. And we actually have extended the date until November the 18th because we're getting a lot of responses. There's a lot of families struggling this year that cannot afford to buy clothing, winter clothing for their kids. Also, the giveaway is going to be December the 3rd at the Hawthorne office, 2944 Emerson Avenue North, but you must register. Because of the COVID, we want everyone to register. We're not going to be able to do a big bash like we normally do, but you will be able to get a flu shot, get lead tested, get COVID tested. We're going to give $25 gift cards to the people that get tested, and the kids will be able to get a coat, hat, scarf, and gloves. So anyone that's interested, call me at the Hawthorne office, 612-529-6033, or email me, dhawkins@hncmpls.org.
Suzanne's on the line.
Okay, so we're going back to Mr. Clarence to honor Miss Suzanne.
Well, thank you. I'm getting back on the camera. Suzanne Young is a senior project manager for the city of Minneapolis, and Suzanne has been working around the issue of substance abuse, and Suzanne has been with us almost from the very beginning in terms of the work that we've been doing in Hawthorne. And so, whenever we have an activity, she's there. She always has comments, and she's a very wonderful person for me in terms of being able to talk with the city about the issues that we are being confronted with. And so she's been a very, very strong supporter of Hawthorne. And so I'm very honored that we were able to honor her today in terms of this award. So it's an award of appreciation for her work that she has done over and beyond. So with that, I'm gonna give it to Ms. Diana, because you also worked with her as well.
Yes, I just want to say, Suzanne, I really appreciate you, because when people always say, oh, the city don't help you do that, and I said, well, Suzanne will help, she'll help you. So all you got to do is call Suzanne Young, and she'll do what she can to help you. And I have enjoyed working with you over the years. You have shown Hawthorne a lot, and you have been in our corner. And with that being said, I'm going to ask Miss Suzanne to take it away.
Oh, something just happened here. I'm having computer issues today. Oh, there we are. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this honor, and Diane, thanks for that lovely picture you put up there. Oh, that's funny. But thank you. It's everybody here that's doing the work. So I'm humbly accepting this award. Thank you so much. And I really have enjoyed working with you. And I just really appreciate all the work that you do for our community. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, I don't see the commissioner here yet, so I'm going to turn it back over to my good friend Al, because I know that he has some questions or something that he wants to talk to every one of us about today. Mr. Al?
Well, I think I want to talk about the importance of voting. And I want to say these comments in a nonpartisan way, because I think, whatever your political orientation is, there's just a lot at stake in the world and in community. And I simply hope that all of us activate ourselves in making sure that each of us brings everybody that we touch to the polls now, if possible. Voting early is available. You can even vote early at the Urban League here in North Minneapolis. There are other early voting sites over in Northeast Minneapolis and downtown. But up until, I think, Monday, you can vote early. Then on Tuesday, if you haven't voted early, please do show up at the polls. I can tell you this, that voting is both a privilege, a duty, and an honor. And those of us who are elders, adults, I think can look back and remember the times we brought our children to the polls with us. When Bobby and I started having a family and our daughters, we would take them to the polls with us, because we wanted them to get a feeling for how important we thought this exercise of our freedom was. And I think that spirit probably is something that all of you here in this virtual room have as well. And the important thing is to talk about that. Let's have and tell stories to each other and to the community about how we take our democracy seriously, how precious it is, how important it is, and how much power we feel when we exercise our decisions, our selections at the ballot box. So I want to just take a minute to both thank all of you. I can't imagine that anybody on this call is not active personally, but I want to also invite and ask and encourage you to take the extra push and to get people that you know through church or community or social or sorority, fraternity, neighborhood, family, to make sure that everybody you know, ask them, did you vote? Did you vote? Can I help you? Every vote counts, every vote matters, and our community cannot expect that we can shape the future that we want for ourselves and our families unless we do the work. And voting is the work at hand right now. And I just like to leave that open, because maybe somebody here has a story, a thought, an inspiration that would help us all focus on this duty, the obligation to vote. Anybody want to jump in here? And
I'll speak, Al.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's very, very important to vote. I don't think that I've missed very many voting opportunities since I could vote. And I realized that so many times people talk about how unimportant it is, but I have been involved in campaigns where it was 1 or 2 votes that made a difference. And I think that I think you talked about this, Al, without being partisan, we have some major issues in our country today that we need to be addressing. And the only way that we're going to do that is with the hope that we still are in a democracy, and that our voices will be heard. And I do just believe that it's just important for us to exercise that. I always talk about this is grown folk stuff. This is how we show that we are elders. This is how we show that how we show our leadership in our communities. And it's a very, very important, and I appreciate the fact that you took your kids, because that's the same thing I want to do with my children, is to tell them that this is important for us. And I don't care how other people play it off. It's important for us to at least voice our opinion. So thank you.
Al, my dad used to tell me, if you don't vote, don't say nothing, because you're a part of the problem. So we need the solution, and the solution is to go out and vote. So he would always make us go vote. And he said, if you don't vote, don't talk to me about any problems.
There it is. That's it. Anybody else? Comments, thoughts? feelings.
I'll say too, in my family, my parents took us to the polling place always. And it's when they had the big machines and they closed the big.
Mhm.
My mother would say, once you're in here, you can do what you want. And my father said, if you don't vote and you can, then you can't talk about politics in our family. But the other thing, my mother used to always remind us that people died to get the right to vote, and you have no right to not vote. That was their attitude, that you have every responsibility to vote because people gave their lives for this. So don't be lazy, go vote. So that was how my family was. So I always vote. I bring my son, we go, we make a day of it. We're going today because I'm not going to be here next Tuesday. So we make a day of it. It's a big deal. We celebrate, we take pictures.
Mhm.
So it's a big deal. And I just tell everyone to vote. It's important. You can't lose that.
Let me shift the conversation one more time while we're waiting. And I want to just say how excited and pleased I am when I drive up and down West Broadway and through the Hawthorne neighborhood. There's a lot of good stuff going on. And you all will recall that I reached out to Bill Magnuson in the precinct a couple of years ago, concerned about the safety of my team at the Marcus Garvey House on 18th and Bryant. There were a couple of concerns. Once, for a long period of time, the building next to our building at 1815 Bryant was vacant, burned out with the fire, and it became a hazard. I reached out to Bill, and in fairly short order, through his inquiry and his directing me, that problem was taken care of. So Bill, I want to just acknowledge one more time, thank you for leadership, service, response. And then I've also reached out to you just with questions. And now I want to sort of give praise back to you and all of your colleagues at the precinct. And the questions I raised were about the developing of an encampment on the next to the apartment building just behind Broadway on Bryant. And what's happened now that I'm so happy with is Tim Baylor's phenomenal project going up. And here's how important it is. I was talking to my regular mail carrier a couple of days ago, and he said, you know what? When this building here on Bryant and Broadway, as that development happens, and with what the city is doing and the police department is doing on the Lindale Broadway corridor, this route that I have, this is golden. This is the best carrier route in the city because all the things that make it difficult, challenging, create fear are being addressed one by one. And so I thought that was particularly poignant for him to say, you know, kind of without invitation, how his experience walking the community every day, being an essential part of our communication, interaction, US mail delivery, but the hope he had and the joy he's experiencing, I wouldn't trade this route for anything. This is the best route in the city. So I want to say that, also saying that when I see stuff happening at Juxtaposition, the 926 building, the residential properties on the River Road, I think at Plymouth, is that where the new ones are, at Plymouth or at Broadway? Broadway. And I see our neighborhood filling out and filling up with new construction, new residential, new business, what Kenya McKnight has done up at the Zura building. I'm impressed. And I think we're at the beginning of something that is increasingly phenomenal, important, and transformative. And so that's just my impression. I wonder how other people see it. Is it just me looking with the rose tinted glasses, or are all of you feeling the same thing about hope and positivity in our neighborhood? Any comments or feedback?
I could say, as someone that's seen it as a disaster and the difference that's going on now, I'm really pleased at what's going on Broadway. I just wish that we could come to some kind of agreement with this light rail and, where it's not going to disrupt people's lives or businesses, because I do see Broadway growing. And I can say back in the Minneapolis days, we didn't have that. It was a fight versus what we're seeing now. We're seeing a lot of bad stuff now, but I think it's being more cleaned up than what it was back then. And I think that's because over the years, people have come to understand that this is just what's happening on Broadway. So either you change it or you live with it. And I can commend the 4th precinct with over 30 years working with them, that I have seen a lot of changes. I know the commissioner is supposed to be coming on. Becky just texted me. She said he would be here within the next 5 minutes, that his other meeting ran over. So Al, if there's anything you, Miss Princess?
May I share? Just thank you, Al, for talking about the voting. I remember taking the boys with me to vote, and they had those children's booths. And I never knew how important that was. And even when we're looking at politics across the United States and looking at what's going on in West Broadway and in some of our urban areas, we know there's science behind removing those negative memories and adding them with those celebratory attitudes and that appreciation and that gratitude for our brains to actually be able to create and live in something else. Looking forward to hearing about the guy who's doing the work and family party, trying to see if we can get more of us into politics so that we do hold that electoral vote. Or reading books like Charles M. Blow, The Devil talking about how do we get concentrated people living in the area. So people are coming up with multiple opportunities and strategies to change the political scape, as well as the work that we're doing in North Minneapolis. I know when I drive down the street, I feel good about it. I'm like, how is it always this deficit-based story that we're telling? How come I don't know there has not been any gunshots heard at the North High Field? And it's things like that that help rewire our brains to be able to create this life that we want to live in instead of complaining about what's happened. Thank you for listening.
Great points. Anybody else want to weigh in on that? Perception means a lot, and we can be intentional, is what I hear you saying, Princess, in putting ourselves and our best foot forward in ways that amplify the will and the possibility of health and healthiness and brain health, psychic health, emotional health, spiritual health, all of that. But we have to intend it, we have to want it, and then we can walk it, we can live it, we can be it, and it radiates outwards, and it's infectious in a positive way. I think that's what I hear you saying. Am I on track with you, Princess? Okay, great. So anybody else talking about that? What are your experiences and your feelings in community right now? I was looking for a book. I had it before me, it's not around, by one of my former students, Colnice Hendon, has a book about growing up in North Minneapolis and South Minneapolis. And if I had that here, I would show you the cover. But if you get a chance, there's a new Black women's bookstore in the IDS in downtown Minneapolis. And Colnice Hendon is one of several local authors. There are a lot of Black men and women, community people here, not just Black, writing and creating volumes of documentation about their experiences and expectations. Colnice Hendon is one, but I recommend her to you, because when I read her book, I tried to read it to see which streets and which people. So let me look in the index first, see if I'm in the book. Number one, I wasn't, and that's good. That's good. So that's the first thing. But that's what's exciting about books, because you could be in the story, you know.
So Mr. Al, would you like to introduce Dr. Alexander to the group?
Absolutely, he's here. So Dr. Cedric Alexander is here. Dr. Alexander, welcome to the Hawthorne Huddle. You and I have talked already in an interview. We'll be doing that again and again and again. And we are pleased that you've brought your knowledge, your history, which is a stellar history of service and leadership in Atlanta and around the country. With that, I just want to welcome you to the Hawthorne Huddle and pass the microphone to you to introduce yourself anew and talk about your vision, your priority, and what's changing in the period of time you've been on board. A major thing, obviously, is that you've hired a new police chief and how that relates to the grand vision of creating safety and compassion in our community. So Dr. Cedric Alexander, welcome. The microphone is yours.
So thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me. I've been looking forward to be able to be here with you all this morning. Of course, many of you may know I arrived 3 months ago, and since that time, I've been quite busy, had an opportunity to meet a lot of people in the community, and certainly a lot of leaders like yourself and others who are truly every day trying to make a real difference in this community, even before the social unrest that occurred back in 2020. And I think sometimes, we forget the fact that, the battle you've been fighting was long before then. And we continue in this fight for social justice for everybody in this country. So I want to applaud y'all for the great work that y'all do. But in regards to the work I've been doing, it became very evident to me within a short period of time, the crime issue, the relationship between police and community, which had been certainly challenged over the years, here again, long before George Floyd. In walking into this community, seeing and hearing the trauma from a lot of people in terms of what had occurred in recent years. And of course, you lay COVID over the top of that as well. That certainly had made for a very tough time for this city because most cities just had to deal with COVID. This city had to deal with COVID and major social unrest. But as time moves on, it became very evident to me, what is it, Cedric, talking to myself, what is it that I can do? So there was never a honeymoon period for me. And I think it becomes important for me to be able to come up with something that kind of help immediately, in the immediate, and attempt to do something to try to quell some of this violence. And I know people who live in North Minneapolis, South Minneapolis in particular, have struggled tremendously on so many different levels around so many social issues in this country and in this city, more specifically. And I just really felt there was a need to do something. So many of you have heard about Operation Endeavor and the role that it's been playing in this community, because I knew one of the first things I needed to do is try to slow down some of these shootings, some of this violence. And of course, I became very familiar with the liquor store there up in North Minneapolis and Winters Service Station, issues that were going on downtown, issues that were going on in and around South Minneapolis, and understanding that in this police department, in this public safety, we only have so many police officers, and they're not very many, 550, because this community lost about 250 officers over the last couple of years. And when you lose a third of your department, that is huge. That is huge. And so I put Operation Endeavor in play, which was an opportunity to move some personnel around in our departments, give opportunities for them to be able to work additional hours overtime as needed, use science and analytics and metrics to be able to determine where we need to put these officers at certain times of the day and hour, and understanding that people certainly in our Black and brown communities want police more than anybody. They just want good policing. And when I did the roll calls in and around this city at these police precincts, one thing I totally emphasized with them, and they grasped it, was we're going to go out here, we're going to be constitutional in terms of the way we do our job. We're going to be legal, and we're going to be respectful to the citizens we serve, even if people don't come across to you being respectful. And I have to tell you, certainly over the last 30 days of this operation so far, not one formal complaint has been made. And we got 50, 60 officers out there at any given time working this operation throughout the city, tracking some of the most violent offenders there are, going after the drugs and guns, which is the numbers of drugs and guns they've taken off the street over the last 30 days it's just unbelievable. And particularly those that have those sear devices, which turns them into deadly automatic weapons. So they've done an incredible job in terms of their approach to the community. They've done an incredible job in terms of how they have invited the community into being part of this operation. And that was one of the most immediate things I saw that needed to be done. Now, is it the end all, the be all? Absolutely, it's not. We still got a lot of work to do. We still got a lot of relationship building to do. And we still got a lot of crime to, but people in this community want to feel safe. They deserve to feel safe. And I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that they feel safe. And we got outstanding precinct inspectors out there, such as Charlie Adams, who's doing an incredible job and a great supporter of what we're doing here, and someone I've gotten to know in the brief time that I've been here. And I will say this, just a real champion of this community, real champion of the community there in North Minneapolis, a real champion, and love this city. And we all inspired.
All right, have a good time. Be careful. All right, love you.
We're all inspired by the great work that's being done here. So that's, I'll stop right there, and certainly would be more than glad to answer any questions that you all may have.
Thank you, Dr. Alexander. Let me ask you just to focus from your level, your high level, on three broad issues. You mentioned one, and that is addressing the perception and the presence of crime and drugs on the Broadway, Lindale, near North area. Just how you see that progressing. We've been hearing from Inspector Adams of forward movement. And I think the community is feeling that. That's what I was saying before you came on. That's one general issue. The second general issue is the issue of the homeless encampments. What do you see happening there? The city's response, neighborhood responses. And then the third general issue is that the background of all of this conversation is the debate, the proper framing of what transformational change can and should mean. And I think all of us have wanted to steer clear of this dichotomous description of fund or defund the police, but move towards an analysis of both problems and opportunity that is proper, that, as you just said, reflects the will of ordinary citizens in the community, Black community in particular, about our need for proper public safety, compassionate public safety. At the end of the day, it means professionalism. And I think you represent that. So those are things just to talk about any way you want to.
Yeah, so let's start with the encampment issue. Let me get that out of the way. The encampment issue in this community, as it is many other cities across the country, is a very complex one. And it's not a police issue. Let me be clear about this. This is a larger, broader societal issue in which people, regardless how they became homeless, under whatever conditions, whether they struggle with mental health, whether they struggle with just making a decision that they want to live freely and they have the right to live freely, and they don't want to be in a formal structure. They want to live on the streets. And you have people who are like that, and they have the right to do so. And we know that also we have people that are homeless. A large percentage of them may struggle with mental health illness or drug addiction. But we also know that this is symptomatic of a larger social issue in this country that is going to have to be resolved by our elected officials at all levels of government, city level, state level, federal level. Where police get pulled into this is when these encampments do take place. They are allowed, they are authorized to 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 take place in a certain part of the community. And then at some point, when it becomes an issue for some reason, whether it's based on health conditions or it's based on trafficking of drugs or whatever, or sex in some of those places, it becomes a community problem. And many times community cry out. And it's a difficult problem. If you think about the most recent encampments here, I can tell you firsthand, sitting at those tables there at City Hall, they did everything that they could to manage those situations with the greatest of care, understanding that they had to move for whatever reason, they had to move people from those encampments, but they also had social services in place for people to be able to go somewhere, people be able to have some housing, some place of safety, if you will, as opposed to just kicking people out of the camps totally into the street. A lot of preparation was made about that. I sit there as they planned that. But of course, police are brought into it oftentimes as those individuals, police being those individuals that maybe have to help people move along based upon the law. So it is a double-edged sword for policing because we get called into this. But the real challenge around this, sir, this is a broader social issue, is that's going to have to be resolved through political will. And that political will is going to be at the local, state, and federal level. And communities as well, having a voice, making sure that they stand by and support those who are homeless and sometimes helpless. I think we all have a godly heart towards people who live in those conditions. And we have to do more to be able to keep people from ever even being in this type of place or these encampments standing up that later on cities like Minneapolis and across the country have to turn around and close. The first question, I think, was around the great work that's being done in North Minneapolis by Inspector Adams and his people, and the great work that they're doing around policing. And certainly you have some very challenging parts of the community up there. But, you know, the best report that I can never receive is not that what we receive from the stats in terms of just what the numbers are telling us, but the best information that's more meaningful to me than anyone else is the people that I talk to. When I talk to the Lisa Clemens, when I talk to the McAfees, when I talk to other community leaders up there like yourselves, and they tell me they see and feel some difference, that's powerful. And that is what makes the difference. Let me tell you, we got a lot of work still to do, a lot of work. But every little thing that we can do to help people better their lives, for people to feel they can walk the streets and not be threatened, it make all of us feel good. And particularly when we think about the number of shortages that we have in this police department. But you know what? We don't complain about it. We just go out and we do the very best that we can. We adjust our personnel and resources, and the precincts are supportive of each other. And we got community members that are out supportive of us. They're just not behind the doors saying that they're supportive of us. They're publicly saying that they're supportive of the good work. You know, but here again, what people want more than anything else, they want good policing, not just any kind of policing. They want officers to be constitutional. They want them to be legal in their action, and they want them to be respectful. And those are three words in which we now characterize our mission every day. And men and women have adopted those three words as being very important to them. And I think that's a lot what's behind the success of the work that's being done out on this street, not just Operation Endeavor, but the work that's being done by the men and women who answer the daily 911 calls as well. So I think that's hugely important. Now, transformation, you know, in 2015, I was one of the 11 members of Obama's task force on 21st century policing. And we were charged by President Obama in December of 14 to create a document that could be used across police departments across this country to advance policing. And we had 2 months to do it. And we were right in the middle of the Christmas holidays of 14 when we were given that charge. And it was just shortly after the Michael Brown incident in Ferguson. And in March, on March 2nd of 2015, myself and 10 other task force members went to the White House and delivered to then President Barack Obama a task force report that is still being utilized by many police departments and communities across this country. Now, let me be clear about something. When we hear words like reform, transformation, when we hear terms like transparency, those terms, body cameras, all of those terms in recent years were born out of that document. So when we talk about transformation, oftentimes we have to understand what is it that we're trying to transform. We've heard a lot about defund the police. And we, I think as a country, as a nation, and certainly in this city, has come to realize we can't defund police. We have to have adequate policing in this country because we have a need for police services at a variety of different levels and a variety of different reasons. So we have to fund policing, but we want good policing. And we also have to begin to look at what do we want policing to look like in the 21st century? We want better trained officers. We want to have a process where we can have more mental health workers out there on the street that can, they themselves, be dispatched to non-threatening situations in which they are more properly trained and certified than your police officers. That reduced the amount of calls for service for police officers where they can concentrate on what policing was designed to do in the first place. And that is to be a preventative tool, not just a responder to call, but around prevention. So I think when we begin to think about policing and transforming policing into something new, we also have to think about how do we utilize modern day technology. And there's a lot of technology out there today that can be incorporated into crime fighting and utilizing that type of technology. But one of the most important things there is when it comes to transformation, if you want to use that term, transformation, reform, whatever you want to call it, at the end of the day, we got to have community support. We cannot have a police department. We cannot have good public safety unless we have community that is involved with us in this process. This is a partnership, and it's a partnership in which police is there to support community, and hopefully community is there to support good policing. And people want good policing. They're not going to accept anything any less, and I don't blame them. So those are the areas I think, and to your questions, I think those are great questions, and I think they really speak to the space and time that we're in. But we also have to understand we are not going to fix this overnight. We didn't get here overnight. But here again, one of the most important things for me, and you'll see that demonstrated throughout this city, and I know it's important to your precinct commander there, Adams, that we do everything that we can to keep people safe throughout this city. We don't have a whole lot of personnel, but we're going to fight with what we got. And we're going to do everything we can to protect this community and move forward.
Let me have you to recite those 3 principles again. I think that's so important. I want to sort of burn them into my brain and share them with our community the way you shared them already. Constitutional.
Yes, sir.
Legal, right. And what's the third one?
Respectful.
So dwell on that a little bit. I think that's wonderful to hear that because that's kind of a catechism. It's a distilling of principles that can be carried in the minds and hearts of citizens, as well as the minds and hearts of the officers, and it can be the citizens' measuring tool. Does this encounter, this drive-by, this wave reflect constitutional? Does it reflect legal? And does it reflect the third one again?
Respectful.
Respectful, okay.
Yes, sir.
Talk about that some more. I love that. And put in that this whole question of what professionalism means.
Well, that in and of itself is probably another definition for professional living. It's the way that we conduct ourselves, the way we provide a service, the way that we give a service. So when I talk about constitutional, police officers across this country, all of us, our police officers specifically, are sworn to protect the U.S. Constitution, to treat every person in this country the same, right? Based on the U.S. Constitution. And we're going to make this country do what she says she's supposed to do. And we have a responsibility to do that, because sometimes she may not do it on her own. But we're going to hold this country to make sure, accountable, to make sure that everyone in this country, regardless of who they are, have the right as a citizen to be treated fairly and justly under the U.S. Constitution. That is important for all of us. None of us are no more or no less American than anyone else. And I feel very strongly about that. Secondly, legally, it is very important for law enforcement officers who are out there enforcing the law. It's very important that they themselves maintain a legal posture in everything that they do. Because who are going to role model to all of us when you're in that kind of position as a sworn peace officer? People are looking at you. They're looking at you on duty. They're watching you even more off duty. They see how you conduct and carry yourselves under the color of law. And we are a nation of laws. So it's important that we follow the law and conduct ourselves legally and be that role model for those people in our communities who looked up to us because we're in uniform. And lastly, and probably the most important and powerful of them all, is being respectful. Because we're going to respect the U.S. Constitution and the people that we serve. We're going to respect the laws of this nation and make sure that we're conducting ourselves in a legal and professional manner. And respect is basic and fundamental to being a citizen in any community. Even if I don't know your name, I can say yes, no, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, excuse me, thank you, you're welcome. Basic fundamental respect. That is huge in the communities in which we live. It is huge and fundamental to policing in this country. It's something I firmly believe in. You can go right now to any precinct in this city, and you're going to find those three words either scratched up on a blackboard somewhere or pasted up on a board. In fact, I just had placards made that's going to be disseminated around to all of the precincts with those three things on it. Be constitutional, be legal, be respectful. And these officers have demonstrated that, not saying we're perfect, but they certainly have begun to demonstrate those types of behaviors in a way in which the public is reporting that they feel better. We still got a long way to go. And I'm not trying to mislead anyone here. We still got a lot of work to do, but we're going to do it collaboratively, and police and community partnership is huge in all of this.
Bring your camera down, Commissioner. There we go. Perfect. So listen, we're about at the end of our program. This has been a wonderful, I call it a masterclass, hearing you share your thoughts, your philosophy. I want to do this. I want to have you take a couple of minutes to give the elevator speech introduction of Dr. Cedric Alexander. People can read about it, but it's so much better to hear it from you and in your voice, what you emphasize in telling your story, your origin story. So take a minute and describe the making and the development educationally, professionally, genealogically of Dr. Cedric Alexander.
Yeah, well, thank you. Very quickly, I was born and raised in Pensacola, Florida. Went to Florida A&M University in Tallahassee, HBCU. Started my police career there in Tallahassee as a young deputy sheriff in the 70s. Went on from there to Orlando, to Miami, where I policed for a number of years in Miami. And it was in early 92, I got out of policing and went and worked on my doctorate in clinical psychology. I'm a clinical psychologist by training. After my training in Ohio and back at the University of Miami Medical Center and University of Rochester in the Department of Psychiatry, the mayor and I in Rochester, New York at that time, brother invited me to come into the police department back in 2002 as a deputy chief to help them work through some things, much of the kind of same things we still see that are going on today. And I served there as deputy chief for a few years, subsequently became chief, and went on to do some other things, worked for the state of New York as a deputy commissioner, and then on the homeland in Dallas, where I ran a number of TSA operations at the 6th largest airport in the world at DFW along the federal security side. Ended up in Atlanta as chief of police and public safety director, which is equivalent to what I do now as a commissioner, just a different title. And then did a couple other things I won't bore you with, but past president of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. I sit on the Innocence Project board that works towards getting a number of incarcerated people in prison out who have been wrongly placed there. I'm on that national board, and my whole life has been about service. My parents were teachers. My mom taught elementary school. My dad was a math teacher. He died early at age 69. My mother just most recently passed this past May. And her passing really, because I'd been home with her, retired for the last 3.5 years, her passing really is what it kind of lined up with the mayor's. The mayor contacted me and asked me would I be willing to come here and help. And my mother passed on the same day I was meeting with Jacob Fry. From a spiritual perspective for me, because I would have never left my mom had she been alive, but I still wanted to meet with the mayor and chat with him. But in many ways, spiritually to me, it almost makes me tear up just thinking about it now. That was her way of saying, go do what needs to be done, Cedric. Wow. And I'm going to stop right there because it's a little bit too much for me to think about right now.
Well, Doctor, that's a mic drop right there. Thank you so much for sharing. We really, it means that much more to me and to all of us listening and those who hear this over our social media networks as we progress. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Know this, I think I speak on behalf of everybody on this call and all of the neighborhood organizations. We're with you 100%, and what we can do to support your work, your vision, we are glad to do. We think it's our duty, our responsibility, and it's also our sense of accomplishment in being with each other in community to make this work. Thank you, Dr. Alexander. I think we're kind of at the end. Diane, let me turn it back over to you.
I just want to say 2 things, Dr. Alexander. It was nice meeting with you. Look forward to working with you. And Miss Princess had her hand up, so I don't want us to not let her get her question in.
That's right. That's right. Thank you.
I did write my question because I'm valuing the time. So I appreciate you for seeing the humanity and adding that humanity, that fresh energy back to your engagement with the city, which has been the opposite of the trauma and the experiences that some people have had. And I'm wondering what ideas or innovative strategies do you have when it comes to prevention and intervention?
Well, prevention is key. The whole idea here is when we're able to catch a breath, and it's hard for us to catch a breath right now because so much is happening, but it'd be great to get in a place where we can get in a place and start thinking about what are some prevention measures that we can begin to take to help people who live in homeless situations, help people who end up involved in criminal activity, who are really good people, but just because of circumstances that they're confronted with may make wrong decisions. And I think that preventative piece is hugely important. And hopefully we can get in a place where we can begin to think some of those things instead of being so reactive. But here's the most important part of all this. Regardless of whatever we do, we need to do it with a sense of being compassionate towards people. Because a lot of people, and particularly in any community, but particularly in our communities where we know our culture, we know our history, we have so many people who want to do the right thing. We have so many people who get caught in a web of things that they probably could have made better decisions, but they didn't. A lot of these young people are out there on these streets involved in some of the things that they are. they're really not bad kids. They just caught a bad space. But unfortunately, types of behaviors comes with consequences. And you have to have consequences. But we got to get to a place where we can begin to think about and do more around some of these prevention. We got a lot of programs in every city across the country, but we got to start measuring these programs based on the success that they bring and the things that they're really doing to make an impact in our community. Look, it was great being on with you all this morning. Thank you. And,
Thank you. And Ms. Ann, would you like to talk about next month real quick before we leave?
Next
I'm going
month.
here, but thanks a lot, guys.
Hi, Commissioner. We'll see you soon.
We'll have you back. We're going to have you back.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Next month is our annual celebration, and looking forward to the next year that we do every December. So we invite you all to come and think about the kinds of things you'd like us to do in 2023. In February, we will have the interim school superintendent here with us. She's going to come and talk about what's going on in schools, but also answer some of our questions about the planning for the next superintendent. So that will be a good time. But other than that, 2023 is pretty open. So we would look forward to your ideas for the coming year, but we also want to celebrate what we've done this year. So please join us in December. I think it's December 1st, actually.
And I just want to let everybody know that probably in 2023, we will continue our partnership with Al McFarland on the huddle. We will probably do virtual meetings again because that seems to work and we get a lot of responses for that. So we're looking for 2023. We're looking forward to that. And what did I say? The huddle's 27, celebrating 27 years. So it's been a great ride. I'm going to make sure that we stay around. With that being said, see everybody next month.